This video is for informational and educational purposes only. Viewer discretion is advised. Imagine you're scrolling through TikTok late at night when a video pops up on your feed. At first, it looks like just another weird clip, but then it hits you. What you're watching isn't a trend. It's something far darker. From suitcases with horrifying contents, to vanishings that captivated millions, to viral mysteries that ended in the most unexpected ways. Today, we're diving into some disturbing TikTok mysteries. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And let's get into it. Quick note, this is a re-upload of my original video. The first version got age restricted, so I made some quick edits to keep it accessible for everyone. If you've already seen it, I'd still appreciate it if you could throw it on in the background to support. Thanks, and let's get into it. The Gabby Petito case. Gabrielle Venora Gabby Petito was a 22-year-old travel vlogger from Blue Point, New York, who'd built a social media presence by documenting her life on various social media platforms with her fiance Brian. Both of them had been together since 2019 and were already engaged. She attracted thousands of followers, particularly young women interested in the van lifestyle. On July 2nd, 2021, Gabby and Brian left New York in a white 2012 Ford Transit Connect van converted to a livable vehicle, embarking on a 4-month cross-country journey to visit national parks while documenting their travels on their social media. They started by visiting Monument Rocks in Kansas and Great Sand Dunes National Park in Colorado. Gabby posted in Kansas with a caption saying, "There's no place like the tiny home we built." By July 16th, they had reached Zion National Park, where they were camping in 100-degree heat and experiencing lightning storms, with their journey going as planned. Their posts attracted thousands of fans who were enthusiastic about their lifestyle and engaged with their updates. Things looked to be idyllic, but as so often in this case, it wasn't behind the scenes. On August 12th, 2021, at around 4:30 in the afternoon, police responded to a 911 call about a domestic violence incident. A witness saw a couple near Arches National Park where the guy was slapping the girl multiple times according to them. "I drove by and the guy was slapping the girl. We stopped, they ran up and down the sidewalk, he hit her, hopped in the car, and they drove off." Police pulled over their van after they saw it speeding, hitting the curb and driving strangely in general, and found both Gabby and Brian with visible injuries and Gabby crying uncontrollably in the passenger seat. From body camera footage, we can see that Gabby told the officers that, "We've been fighting this morning, some personal issues, and I have OCD, and sometimes I get really frustrated." The 911 caller did report that Brian was hitting Gabby, but police classified Gabby as the primary aggressor after she admitted to slapping him first. One officer wrote in his report, "At no point in my investigation did Gabrielle stop crying, breathing heavily, or compose a sentence without needing to wipe away tears, wipe her nose, or rub her knees with her hands." The male tried to create distance by telling Gabby to take a walk to calm down. She did not want to be separated from the male and began slapping him. He grabbed her face and pushed her back as she pressed upon him and the van. They separated them for the night, with Brian staying at a hotel paid for by the domestic violence advocacy group while Gabby stayed in the van. Neither of them wanted to press charges, so police marked it down as a mental breakdown rather than domestic violence, which would have required an arrest. After this incident, Gabby continued posting as normal, but in her last Instagram post on August 25th at Grand Teton National Park, followers noticed that she didn't put in her usual location tag and she had new blonde hair. Her mother last spoke to her daughter a day or two before this post, and Gabby told her that they were leaving Utah for Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming, the last confirmed verbal communication with her family. The text messages continued until August 30th, but her mother started to grow suspicious of the tone and wording. One message simply read, "No service in Yosemite," which felt unusual and out of character for her. Even more unsettling was a message where Gabby referred to her grandfather as Stan instead of Grandpa, a name she had never used for him before. On September 1st, Brian returned alone to his parents' home in Northport, Florida, in Gabby's van, without her, which immediately caused concern among her family members. For 10 days, Brian and his family refused all attempts by her parents to ask about her whereabouts, even going as far as hiring a lawyer and maintaining complete silence despite desperate pleas. On September 11th, her family officially reported her missing. Within hours of news breaking about her appearance, TikTok users began making videos about the case, with the hashtag Gabby Petito accumulating over 500 million views. One of the first major creators to talk about it was Paris Campbell, a comedian and content creator with over 150,000 followers, posting a missing person poster. They went to create over 40 videos on TikTok on the case, including detailed analysis about the couple's Instagram feeds and timeline breakdowns. Users started their own investigations by examining every possible detail they could find, including timestamps, locations, and even backgrounds of images for potential clues. A lot of them focused on the domestic violence call reported previously. A big breakthrough came when Miranda Baker, a University of Wisconsin student, posted a series of TikToks on September 17th, claiming that she and her boyfriend had actually picked up Brian on August 29th in Grand Teton Park. They found him alone at around 5:30 p.m. near Coulter Bay, where he offered a suspiciously high $200 for just a 10-mile ride. Brian had apparently told them he'd been camping alone for multiple days without his fiancée, and that Gabby was working on their social media page back at their van. When Miranda mentioned that they were heading to Jackson Hole, Brian immediately freaked out and demanded to be let out of the vehicle and said that he would find someone else to hitchhike. Credit to her, she included detailed maps of exactly where they picked up and dropped off Brian, near Jackson Dam, and also noted that he didn't appear dirty and had an empty backpack despite supposedly camping for several days. Within days of posting, she was contacted by the FBI, who confirmed that they were potentially utilizing her info into their timeline. The final clue came from YouTube. Jen and Kyle Bethune, a family of van life content creators known as Red, White, and Bethune, were also documenting their travels through Grand Teton National Park around the same time as Gabby and Brian. On August 27th, at approximately 6 p.m., the couple were searching for a camping spot when their GoPro camera accidentally captured footage of a white van with Florida plates in the remote area, Gabby and Brian's van. The Bethunes were going to say hello to their fellow Floridians, but decided against it as the van appeared dark and abandoned with no one visible. It wasn't until September 18th, when they finally saw the media coverage of Gabby's disappearance, that Jen realized the significance of their footage. She described the moment of realization as, "I instantly got a bone-chilling feeling. I leapt up and ran to my laptop. I watched the rest of my footage, and sure enough, her van was in the video." They immediately uploaded the footage to YouTube that showed the exact location where Gabby's body would be found just days later, less than 1,000 feet away from where their van was captured on their GoPro. On September 19th, the FBI, based on the YouTube video and other clues from social media, found human remains matching Gabby Petito. They were found in the Bridger Teton National Forest, around 3 weeks after her last known communication. She had died from blunt force injuries to her head and neck with manual strangulation, officially confirming her death as a homicide. 6 days before the body was found, Brian had told his parents that he was going for a hike at, I'm not even going to try to pronounce this park in Florida, and never returned. His parents waited 4 whole days before reporting him missing, which many online found incredibly suspicious. A federal arrest warrant was issued for Brian 4 days after the body was found, not for the murder, but for unauthorized use of her debit card. He had made withdrawals totaling over $1,000 after her death. On October 20th, a month and an extensive search later, Brian's skeletal remains were found at the Myakatchee Creek Environmental Park. Autopsy reports confirmed that he had died from a wound to the head, and a notebook was found near his remains. In it, there was a written confession stating, "I ended her life. I thought it was merciful, that it is what she wanted, but now I see all the mistakes I made." It ends with his plans for S-word. "I am ending my life not because of a fear for punishment, but rather because I can't stand to live another day without her. Experts, however, think that this writing was him just trying to find justification for the actions he did, and that he was someone who doesn't want to own up to what he did. FBI investigators did acknowledge that social media played a very crucial role in the case, with Special Agent Snyder stating that the public's involvement was invaluable. Afterwards, the case became the center of an intense discussion on the phenomenon of missing white woman syndrome. Basically, the term is used to describe the disproportionate amount of media focus on missing person cases that involve young, attractive, white, well-off women or girls, while other cases that do not fit that description barely receive any attention at all. Approximately 710 similar cases were reported of missing Indigenous people from 2011 to 2020, showing the stark difference in coverage. Just an interesting side piece. Gabby's father, Joseph Petito, did later recognize the effect and has since used this platform to advocate for more attention towards missing person cases involving minority groups. Gabby's family filed several lawsuits. One was against Brian's estate for a wrongful death claim, which resulted in an award of $3 million. Brian did not have many assets, however, so we don't know how much the family actually got. They also sued Brian's parents and their attorney, claiming pain and emotional distress, and they held silent, which was settled after mediation. Terms were not disclosed. Finally, they also filed a $50 million wrongful death lawsuit against the Moab Police Department. It included allegations that Officer Eric Pratt admitted that he knew that Brian was a threat, but decided to ignore the law, and that the department did not follow its own lethality assessment protocol. It was dismissed in November of 2024, citing the Governmental Immunity Act of Utah, but he did acknowledge that the case met the early standard for which the officer's conduct could have potentially contributed to her death. The Nicola Bulley case. From what we saw in the previous case, social media has been helpful in solving crime cases, or at least in bringing attention to it. But of course, people can take it too far, as in the case of Nicola Bulley's disappearance. Nicola Bulley, a 45-year-old mortgage advisor and mother of 2 daughters, dropped off her children at school in the town of St. Michael's in Lancashire, England. The date was Friday, January 27th, 2023. She then went on her usual walk with her dog, Willow, at approximately 8:40 a.m. All signs were normal. She sent an email to her boss at 8:53 and a text to her friend at 8:57, planning on arranging a playdate for their children later that week. At 9:01, she joined her work's conference call while walking her dog, keeping her camera and microphone off as usual. The last confirmed sighting of Nicola was at approximately 9:10 a.m. on the upper field by the River Wire, where a witness saw her walking Willow off-leash, appearing normal. At 9:20, by tracking her phone's location, they found that her phone was near a riverside bench, and by 9:30, even though the call had ended, her phone remained connected to the system. 13 minutes later, a dog walker found her phone, still connected to the team's call, on a bench next to the river and Nicola's dog nearby. The dog's harness and lead were on the ground, and most importantly, it was not wet and did not show any signs of being in the water. They immediately called the Lancashire police, who classified Nicola as a high-risk missing person and launched a surprisingly major search operation with police divers, helicopters, sniffer dogs, drones, Coast Guard teams, and fire crews all working together. Within 24 hours, due to the strong response by the police, social media picked up on it and became obsessed with the mysterious disappearance. During the first 3-week search period, videos with Nicola's name as a hashtag gained over a shocking 270 million views on TikTok alone. BBC described it as matching social media engagement levels only seen during high-profile cases like the kidnapping and murder of Sarah Evard, but compressed into a much shorter time frame. So, self-proclaimed detectives got to work and began spewing out conspiracy theories rapidly. BBC's disinformation correspondent, Mariana Spring, documented how TikTok's algorithm was specifically designed to promote these baseless conspiracy theories to any users interested, amplifying the amount of fake news at an uncontrollable rate. These theories truly were baseless. One suggested that our friends and family were crisis actors, people who are allegedly paid to act out tragedies. Another particularly viral one suggested that her disappearance was actually staged by the UK government to distract the people from other political issues, and one theory even questioned whether Nicola was even a real person, saying that the entire family was created from thin air. Worst of all, many videos on TikTok targeted Nicola's friends who were wishing for a safe return online, labeling them as crisis actors, causing trauma to genuine people trying to find their loved one. As the frenzy reached a new high, TikTok users actually began traveling to the town itself to act out their own detective fantasy and make videos for other followers. Local residents reported seeing huge crowds of people arriving with cameras and phones, attempting to climb fences, even bringing their children, and generally treating the location of a tragedy as a tourist site. It became so bad that Lancashire police had to issue a 48-hour dispersal warning, which meant that police officers could now forcefully move on groups of people gathering to make content. Police described being inundated with false information, accusations, and rumors, and Detective Superintendent Rebecca Smith stated that she had never seen anything like it in her 29 years of police service. They specifically singled out TikTokers who had been playing their own private detectives, stating that it was actively slowing down their investigation. Former police and crime commissioner for Dorset, Martin Underhill, warned that this was the first missing persons case that's seen these levels of toxic behavior on social media, and that it exceeds anything that happened in other cases, such as that of Sarah Everard. For example, a 36-year-old YouTuber named Dan Duffy, who also had an active TikTok presence, became one of the most well-known self-proclaimed detectives. He also traveled to St. Michael's on Wire to search for clues. In videos posted to his account, he admitted to being in people's back gardens at nighttime with torches and attempting to search private property without any permission. He even tried to enter an abandoned house where Nicola was last seen while live streaming it all on TikTok. The police had already searched this house 3 times by that point. On February 15th, Duffy was arrested and issued with a fixed penalty for fear or provocation of violence. In his arrest, which he also filmed, he moaned about having no freedom of speech and claimed to only be trying to help find Nicola. Following his arrest, TikTok permanently banned his account. They issued a statement afterwards saying that their thoughts are with Miss Bulley's family and friends, and that they are mobilizing resources to monitor the evolving conversation about this case. They announced that, quote, taking action against violations of our community guidelines, including removing content and accounts, and limiting the reach of some content by making it ineligible for recommendation in their For You feed algorithm. Despite all of this, researchers found that there was basically no change and that users were still recommending controversial conspiracy theories about the case. Furthermore, content like this performed much better on their platform compared to other social media such as Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Meanwhile, the police were hard at work, and about 3 weeks later, on February 19th, Lancashire police received reports that someone had found the body in the River Wire, approximately 1 mile downstream of where she was last seen. It was found by 2 dog walkers, ending the 23-day-long search. The next day, police formally confirmed that they identified the body as Nicola Bulley. But of course, some users on social media refused to accept it. The location where it was found was in an area that had been searched multiple times by both police divers and a private search team, raising a few questions. The private search team was actually hired by Nicola's family. Peter Falding, a 61-year-old diving expert from Specialist Group International, was brought in to assist the search with specialized sonar equipment. He became somewhat of a controversial figure after he publicly claimed that police had low-tech diving equipment and were very unlikely to find a body, and some users trusted him more than the police. Furthermore, he went on to say that Nicola was categorically not in the area where the police believed she had fallen, asserting that if Nicola was in that river, I would have found her. I guarantee you that. This, of course, became a focal point for many more new conspiracy theories as social media became full of alternative explanations. Later, he said that he actually found the body on February 7th, just 11 days after her disappearance, but the police had refused to allow his divers to investigate. An independent review criticized his role, saying that his activities actually caused challenges to the investigation and that some of his media statements were at odds with what actually happened. If you remember, the police classified this case as a high-risk missing persons case, which was certainly unusual, as they did not initially disclose on why that was the case. On February 15th, after facing intense media pressure about their investigation, Lancashire publicly disclosed that Nicola had been struggling with alcohol issues and perimenopause, in an attempt to counter social media speculation and also explain why she was classified as high risk. They had also apparently attended a concern for welfare call at Nicola's house on January 10th, just weeks before her disappearance. The decision to release this information was widely criticized, as users argued that it came across as victim blaming and was irrelevant to the search efforts. Some also said it was avoidable and unnecessary, even though it was legal, and that it contributed to a breakdown of public confidence. Nicola's family were also appalled by this reveal, but their pleas were largely drowned out by the ongoing social media discussion. Nicola's inquest began on June 26th. The coroner stated that there was one purpose, was to allay rumor and suspicion, and that he would only rely on reliable sources, rather than theories advanced by those who contribute to social media fora. Home Office pathologist Dr. Allison Armour testified that Nicola had died from drowning and that there was no evidence of third-party involvement, directly going against many of the conspiracy theories on TikTok. Drowning expert Professor Michael Tipton explained that entering cold water could actually cause fairly rapid incapacitation within 20 to 30 seconds, and that just 2 breaths of water could be lethal. It is very cold in England, and on that day, the water was just 3 degrees Celsius or 37 degrees Fahrenheit. There were 2 witnesses who apparently heard a scream that morning, but both of them gave contradictory times, and the coroner concluded that the scream was probably heard after Nicola was already dead. Toxicology tests showed that there was no trace of alcohol in Nicola's body either, and only therapeutic levels of prescribed medication, so she would have been in a normal state of mind. Despite the official ruling, amateur sleuths continued to discuss and question the inquest findings, with content being created months after the resolution. Clearly, social media was to blame for majorly disrupting the investigation. Useless theories and deluded attention-seeking content creators all tried to take advantage of a tragic death, all for some views. The police could have handled things better, as one reviewer found that they had failed to properly brief the mainstream media, which led to an information vacuum that allowed social media thoughts to run wild. In the end, this case became a watershed moment and a lesson on how police should handle high-profile missing persons cases in this new digital age where anything can go viral. The case highlighted a serious and growing problem of social media interference, showing that while attention can be helpful, it can also be destructive. The suitcase murders. TikTok trends seem to take over the world sometimes, with everybody from your friend to your grandma taking part. One such global phenomenon was the viral exploration app called Randonautica. Randonautica basically generates random GPS coordinates for their users to visit, marketed as a way to explore and escape the burden of everyday life, especially during the pandemic when it was first released. It gained over 10 million users by July of 2020, with the hashtag Randonautica getting over 150 million views on TikTok. On June 19th, 2020, 3 teenagers tried this viral trend in the app directed to Alki Beach in West Seattle, specifically a place named Duwamish Head. People usually don't visit that area at all, so it shows how the app is designed to break people out of their predetermined realities. Things quickly took a dark turn, however. At approximately 1:30 p.m., the trio spotted a black suitcase among the rocks at the waterline. Initially, they jokingly thought it could be some money or treasure, but when they used a stick to open it up, a horrific smell hit them. Inside the suitcase was a black trash bag containing dismembered human remains. They immediately called 911 and waited for an hour and a half for police to arrive, as the tide threatened to steal the evidence. The teens had filmed all of this and posted it on TikTok. Soon, the police found more human remains, and a couple days later, another suitcase was found near the Duwamish River. The bodies had multiple gunshot wounds and were later identified as 35-year-old Jessica Lewis, mother of 4 children, and 27-year-old Austin Cash Warner. Both of them were in a relationship with each other for 8 years. The couple were ordinary, kind individuals who were genuinely fond of each other, according to her aunt. They were renting an upstairs bedroom in their landlord Michael Dudley's house in Burien, Washington, paying $1,500 just for one room. They were going through some financial struggles and could not afford an entire apartment in the extremely high-priced Seattle housing market, and so were dependent entirely on their landlord's goodwill. They were last seen alive in Renton, a Seattle suburb, by their family members before disappearing on June 9th. Their last known activity was a phone call from their landlord at 7 p.m. that day. Around that same time, both of them were shot mercilessly by their landlord, with Jessica dying from multiple gunshot wounds and Warner from a gunshot wound to the torso. Michael Lee Dudley, 62 years old at the time of the murder, was a friendly, accommodating Airbnb host that owned multiple properties in the Seattle suburb of Burien. He would often help his renters by giving them rides to job interviews, for example. In reality, his personality was that of Jekyll and Hyde. Former tenants described him as having violent tendencies under the surface of a kindly older man. His former girlfriend revealed that he was abusive during their 14-year on and off relationship and was actually arrested for assault in 2016. He also had a string of other minor crimes, such as car theft and concealing weapons. One witness said that he once beat a dog to death for trying to attack his chickens and then lied to the owner of the dog. After killing the dog, he apparently told someone there was no difference between the realm of good and evil. So, not exactly a great person. Supposedly, Dudley became angry with Jessica and Austin about their rent payments and believed that they were stealing from him. Around 7 p.m. on June 9th, 2020, neighbors heard gunshots from inside the house and a male voice pleading, "Don't do this, we'll just leave." When police arrived on the scene, they found no one home, and Dudley could not explain later why he wouldn't have answered the door. Before he was arrested 2 months later, he had cleaned up his home, including repairing and painting over the bullet holes in his apartment. Still, police found blood in every room and the bullet holes in the upstairs bedroom where the couple stayed. They could not find the gun used to shoot them, however. One of the key witnesses, J.L. Leon, saw a body at Dudley's house on the evening of June 9th, and Dudley with broken glasses and blood all over his hand. He also laid out sheets in the basement, and when Leon asked Dudley what happened, he responded with, "Let's just put it this way. His gun misfired and mine didn't." When the police launched a homicide investigation, they found out that Dudley's phone pinged just once in 3 months near Alki Beach on June 18th, one day before the suitcases were discovered. He was arrested on August 19th, 2020, and charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder while being armed with a handgun. The defense was extremely flimsy. Dudley's defense attorney argued that actually other people had committed the crime and that Jessica and Austin were scared of people who had previously held them at gunpoint in Dudley's house. The jury obviously found him guilty, and the judge sentenced him to 560 months in prison, noting the contempt and utter disrespect for the victims. And also the 560 months in prison equates to 46 years. I don't know why they laid it out on months. That's kind of weird, but yeah, equates to 46 years. The teenager's video became viral almost immediately, reaching over 30 million views and generating huge controversy. TikTok initially refused to take the video down, stating that it didn't violate their community guidelines. Jessica's aunt repeatedly contacted TikTok to request for removal, explaining that they were preparing to lay the victims to rest and wanted the video taken down out of respect for the family and the loved ones, which makes sense in my opinion. And worst of all, the children of Jessica and Austin would have had to see the graphic content of their parents' murder and live with it being permanently online. After months of pressure from the family and media alike, TikTok finally removed it, but it does raise questions about the responsibility of social media platforms. The family would have had to relive their loss every time they saw the video or it was shared or discussed online. Trolls are everywhere, and the family would have definitely been negatively affected by all of this. But I do think it's weird how Randonautica led to 2 dead bodies. Super weird. I don't know if, it's coincidence. I mean, it had to have been, but it's just a super weird situation. But, I'm glad the murderer of both Jessica and Austin was apprehended. Katie Santry's buried rug investigation. How many of you have seen those videos on TikTok or Instagram where they show some mysterious opening or door? Behind it, there is always some implied dark secret or mystery. But of course, that would only be revealed in part 2, so you would definitely follow them to find out. Most of the time, it is just a fake video to get some views, but once in a while, there comes a video that at least looks like there is something behind it. One such video is made by content creator Katie Santry, who owned a home in Columbus, Ohio. She made headlines in early October 2024 due to a video she posted about an unusual video in her backyard. She and her boyfriend were digging to install a new fence in their property when they found a rolled up rug buried several feet underground. Obviously, she thought it was strange and even joked about it being a dead body and that her house was going to be haunted. Her first viral TikTok about it was when she reportedly had ghostly happenings in her house, such as her laptop screen being mysteriously cracked and objects around the house being randomly moved shortly after unearthing the rug. Obviously, her followers went wild in the comment section, speculating that it was evidence of a murder whose spirit was now haunting her house. Within a few days, the video went viral, and the hashtag #WhatIsInTheRug went viral, with tens of millions of views across TikTok as followers demanded for updates. Online, amateur detectives even went through high-profile cases and urged her to excavate the site. So, Santry first called the police on October 2nd to examine the rug. They did come, but there was no overt evidence visible, so they decided not to waste any more resources and left it to Santry to find out. She shared it to TikTok, where followers were even mystified. So for her and her fans' curiosity, she planned her own excavation with some friends. But strangely, before she could go forward with her plan, she received a call from a homicide detective and police came back, this time with real forensic investigators and cadaver dogs that can find dead bodies. On the day of the dig, she live streamed the whole thing while the detectives, police, and canines arrived at her house. Hundreds of thousands of viewers watched, shocked as they found out that both dogs sat directly on the site of the buried rug, which usually means that their human remains present and the dogs picked up on that. Police dug even deeper with heavy excavation equipment while Santry kept live streaming. In the end, it was kind of anticlimactic as the police found only the rug and pieces of rubber, which they sent to the forensic labs. They tested multiple fragments of the rug and the underlying soil using lab analysis, but found no human or animal remains. Law enforcement confirmed that there was no outstanding criminal or forensic concerns for Santry or her house. There were no missing persons cases, open homicides, or unresolved crimes in the region either, and police could find no criminal activity linked to the rug. Columbus police stated that they would pursue no further action based on the results. Thankfully, no crime had been committed, and Santry's follower count skyrocketed, reaching over 2 million followers and receiving widespread attention across social media and news stations. Santry herself described it as the most absurd, insane experience of her life. Of course, many viewers were left unsatisfied and speculated that maybe the dogs were triggered by minor trace evidence like blood from a nosebleed or animals. It became a meme with many referencing the end result, just a rug with some rubber, but no bodies. Others were more skeptical and thought that it was all just a hoax for attention like every other case. One Reddit user, Lasem21, said this when a news article about this was posted on the Columbus subreddit. Very grifty. Once I saw the one where she was drumming up some haunted story, it was very apparent a nothing burger was in store here. She wove a fantastical narrative out of a rug. Wouldn't surprise me if she did the stuff got moved thing herself. Ultimately, it is better that there was no crime committed, while Santry surely must have made quite a bit of money out of it. She even started selling merch and spoke about starting her own true crime podcast. And alright guys, that wraps up some disturbing TikTok mysteries. Would you like to see this turned into a series? If so, please comment down below, and please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. And also check out some other videos on my channel. I'm sure you'll like them. And thank you so much for watching to the end. This was Snook, and I'll see you next time. Bye.